we found this news out just before we started taping here. Netflix announced a multi-part series about Vince McMahon, a docuseries. This had been in development for a while before all the Vince stuff happened. Then it got kind of put on pause. Bill Simmons is the one who's primarily behind it. It's going to feature interviews that were conducted with Vince prior to everything going down. But then also, it's going to feature interviews about everything that happened with some of the people who broke the stories. It's being advertised as the rise and fall of Vince McMahon. It is called Mr. McMahon. Interesting timing, Matt. This dropping only a few months before WWE and Netflix actually begin their partnership. I know neither of us have any insight on this, but does your gut tell you that we'll see a pretty fair representation here of what happened? What are you thinking?
My guess is that Netflix is Netflix and company, they're going to want to stay credible. So I would guess, yes, it does end up being a pretty fair assessment of kind of what we know.
Yeah, I'm really curious how WWE feels about that happening right before the deal comes to fruition and them doing that. But at the same time, let's call it for what it is. Pretty much everyone in WWE has been distancing themselves from Vince. So I don't know if they'll look at it as the worst thing in the world either, if that's the case.
I mean, once again, I think if the story follows through in the documentary where it says, Vince, he was this innovator, this groundbreaker, trailblazer who built this huge wrestling company and he made it a global thing and the greatest promoter of all time, this, that, and the other thing. And then they talk about, the things that led to his eventual exit. And, now there's a new team in charge and this and that and the other thing. It could be a positive from that perspective too. So you never know. It definitely should generate interest in WWE leading up to their debut on Netflix.
Yeah, I hope it's fairly portrayed. I mean, even calling it Mr. McMahon it raises some alarms for me. Just almost like mediating. Oh, well, that's his character. That's the guy. He was the evil character. But we'll see how that ends up ultimately paying off. I know it will be must-see TV.
I'll be honest. I'm very excited to see it. I mean, that intrigues me, no doubt.
Yeah. I did a podcast with a guy who once said controversy creates cash.
Yes.
That is certainly the case. Anything else out there in the realm on your mind, my friend?
I was just going to say maybe it's a wise choice that they are putting it on
right
before they start Netflix.
Don't
keep the puns rolling.